TDS Phase 2 project to the Transportation Improvement Program. Gallatin was awarded this project through the TDOT CMAQ office's recent mini call for projects that they administer. And they were awarded CMAQ funding for this project. Following that is another request from the city of Gallatin for another CMAQ project that they were awarded. This is for their Lock 4 multi-use trail. Amendment would be adding the project to the TIP with those CMAQ funds. Next, we have a request from TDOT for the Charlotte Pike widening. This was originally, or is currently rather, in the TIP as I-42 American Road. As part of the amendment, TDOT is requesting to revise the termini to read near I-40 to near Annex Avenue, Hillwood Boulevard. They are also adding NHPP funds to the project. Following that is another request from TDOT for another section of the Charlotte Pike widening effort. They are also revising the termini of this project, currently listed in the TIP as American Road to White Ridge Road, revised to near Annex Avenue, Hillwood Boulevard to near White Ridge Road. They are also adding additional NHPP funds to this project. We have two more requests from TDOT. The first being for their I-24 Smart Corridor Phase 3 project. They're requesting to add this project to the TIP with STBG funding. And following that, for their I-24 Open Road Test Bed project, this is an award TDOT received from the CMAQ call for projects. They're requesting to add this project to the TIP with CMAQ funds. So if anybody has any questions about this slate of proposed amendments, I'm happy to take those.
Any questions for Anna? Okay, thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Let me back up just a second. I didn't do the public hearing, public part of this search. If anyone would like to speak, you state your name and title, and we'll give you some minutes. Anybody here like to speak? Okay, hearing none, we'll go back to our schedule here. I'm going to introduce Sean. He's going to talk to us about our urban transportation planning grant.
Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody can hear us that's tuning in virtually, and it's nice to see everybody's faces in person. The first item that we're going to
talk about the COVID there. There we go. We're going to get bigger words.
The first item that I'll be presenting today is going back to our COVID relief funds that we talked about in previous months, and discussion of updates on that, and then a proposed approach for a call for projects. And so just a reminder, the COVID relief funding that we're talking about, I know there's been a number of bills at the federal level, but this is the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, which folks have been referring to as the CRISA funding. Purpose of this is to provide funding to address the coronavirus disease, COVID-19 impacts. And a couple things that is a little bit different about this funding is that traditionally is 80-20 split. However, there is the flexibility for no federal match with this funding, and the eligibility is fairly similar to the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, or STBG. So how much funding are we looking for within our region? There's been about $10 billion across the country, about $210 million in the state of Tennessee, and then within our region, it's about $8 million, and we've delineated kind of how it's been suballocated to the urbanized areas. And so a portion to the Nashville UZA in the amount of $7.9 million. And then for the Murfreesboro UZA, with the discussions at TDOT, they've also included funding, in addition to just the urbanized areas above 200,000, also include funding for some of the smaller urbanized areas across the state. So looking at about $8.7 million in total to the MPO area, One thing we note is that there is a quick deadline to obligate this funding for the Nashville UZA money. That is September 30th, 2024, and then an even shorter turnaround for the Murfreesboro UZA money of December 31st, 2022. So if you recall, staff's recommended approach towards these funds was we were looking towards lower cost projects that could be implemented quickly. And that was done for recommended for a number of reasons. One, given the short turnaround for to obligate the funding. Another was for we have other funding that we've committed towards projects with cost increases or cost overruns that are in right-of-way or construction. And we recently had a call for that funding, and there wasn't a significant demand on those funds. And so there's still some funding available for existing projects in the TIP with existing right-of-way or construction needs. And so we're looking towards newer projects. And so we provided a couple of examples and then asked for your input. We also recommended a share of this funding be used to accelerate big data tools and acquisition, especially in regards to changing traffic patterns as well as changing congestion throughout the region over the past year. And we got some input from you all on that and some of those priorities on what project types you would like to see. And so a couple of comments related to the data. There was additional thoughts on, a share of that funding for data should be a set percentage best used to ensure that that could be consumed by partners at the local, regional, and state level. And utilizing that to not only supplement some of our existing data sources, but to also augment those capabilities that we currently have. And then some comments related to utilizing that information to better understand kind of the conditions on the ground. So using that to gather public support as well as to incorporate that into prioritizing projects. In terms of to what extent did you support the following project types for funding consideration for COVID relief? So we asked for your input on a number of those different project types that we recommended, and some of those top candidates that came back were roadway safety improvements, transportation technology upgrades, sidewalk connectivity and other pedestrian improvements, and ADA related improvements, kind of being those top 4 candidates that there was a high priority for those project types to be included in this in prioritizing the relief funds. And so we further delineated based on those broad project type categories to identify some potential activities. And this is a pretty comprehensive list, but there also might be some other activities that we're not capturing. Under roadway safety improvements, things from upgrading signals to adding signage, wayfinding improvements, lighting, striping, and components like that. For transportation technology upgrades, opportunity for upgrading ITS improvements or transit fare equipment or transit fleets. Also real-time travel information for commuters on the roadway. Under the sidewalk connectivity and pedestrian improvements, opportunities for signal upgrades, crossing improvements, and also amenities related to sidewalks and access to transit and bus stops. And then for ADA related improvements, capturing curb ramps, sidewalk repairs, and potential signal upgrades as well, particularly the auditory upgrades. So our thought, and we have not prepared an application, but we wanted to present some thoughts on, for this round, we would recommend a pre-application as well as a formal application process. And here's some of the basic components that we would capture in that form. It's similar components to what you see in some of our other call for projects in terms of gathering information about the project, description, background, purpose, any past work that's been done on the project, as well as anticipated schedule and budget for the project. I think schedule, particularly related to this, would be a priority, maybe more of a priority than in other grant rounds, given that obligation deadline. But we'll continue to get input on this and come back with a more fleshed out application form by next month. Let me just get through the schedule and then we can take some questions. In terms of a tentative schedule for the call for projects, we're looking to kick this off next month with your issue of a call for projects. And then we would have an opportunity to have that pre-application process and kind of take a look at what's been submitted before embarking on a formal application process, looking to have the evaluation and awards announced by September of this year. And that's all I have related to this. Happy to
Any
turn it
questions
over
for Sean?
Right here. Is there any way to accelerate this particular process? Because I managed the program, it is a tough task to get through the process is funding obligated. Specifically with Marcus Pearl's money being obligated by December 2022. Based on this particular schedule, by the time you get your TDOT contract, by the time you advertise for consultants, get your consultants on board, it's probably December at the earliest. That's 3 years and that's 1 market. So time is limited. So if there's any way we can accelerate this would be nice.
I appreciate that comment, Jim. We've had a number of conversations internally. We share your concern and happy to brainstorm. Maybe we could get you and TDOT folks and us together to identify some potential opportunities to speed that up.
Anyone else? Thank you, Sean. Now we move to item 4C and the Unified Transportation Plan. Am I right this time?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the
I
first,
can't read.
the first of 2 items on the Unified Planning Work Program today. The first is an amendment to the current work program that extends from until September 30th of 2021 this year. And as you know, the work program identifies federally funded transportation planning activities that are going to be occurring within our region, carried out by GNRC staff as well as consultants and our partners. It also documents a lot of the planning activities that you all are carrying out in your communities so that we can better coordinate planning efforts. But today we have just a couple of items as part of this amendment to include the addition of 2 planning grants awarded by TDOT, one through a residual 5303 transit funding call for projects, and also through TDOT's recent Urban Transportation Planning Grant Program. And so we would be recommending the addition of both of these planning grants within the UPWP. On the in-motion update, which was awarded through this residual 5303 call for projects that came out last summer. This would be for, you are likely familiar with the initial in-motion that was developed in 2016. This would be an update to that in-motion plan, strategic plan for transit within the region, and looking to really, based on a lot of the changing conditions that have happened, kind of updating some of those baseline conditions and identifying some next steps for strategies to not only improve existing transit service, but identify opportunities for capacity improvements throughout the system. The grant amount for the 5303 is $240,000 in federal funds, but the total effort would be $650,000. And then the second was for the Sumner County Bike Plan that was awarded through TDOT's Urban Transportation Planning Grant. This effort is you may have been aware of for multiple years as Sumner County was looking to advance bicycle and pedestrian priority projects within their county with an effort that involves not only the county, but all of the cities within the county. And so we're excited to engage in this effort that is currently underway and will likely be completed by the end of 2021. And that total project cost is about $150,000. So the schedule that we're looking at is going to follow that TIP amendment cycle where we'll be presenting to you all today. We'll follow with a public review and comment period over the coming month and bring it back for adoption at our June meeting.
Okay, any questions for Sean? Anthony? You all right? Okay, all right. Hey, thank you, Sean. We'll move to agenda item 4D, and I guess we're still with Sean. Thank you, Sean.
Moving right along, the second of the items related to the Unified Planning Work Program relates to the upcoming UPWP that we're developing for the next two federal fiscal years, 2022 and 2023. And I think we gave an overview of the process for developing the TIP, for the UPWP back in March, and we've gotten a lot of good input since then that has helped identify some planned and proposed priorities for the coming 2 years. And so, as you recall, as I mentioned with the amendment, the UPWP, the work program, not only serves to coordinate planning, but also to identify the activities that we're going to be carrying out with federal funds. And we've had a survey that we've left up. We've had, I think, over 24 responses so far. So we appreciate everyone's input. And kind of the input that we're looking for as part of this survey is not only to hear about what types of activities are going on in your community or at the sub-regional level for us to be aware of and to coordinate with some of the activities that we have planned, but also to identify any other regional priorities that you should think that we should be working on over the coming years. And so I'll go through some of the input that we've received so far. One of the questions that we had was, to what extent should the following issues be considered a priority as GNRC updates this work program? And similar survey result, similar survey to the priorities for COVID is trying to get a sense of which issues we should be tackling, which are a high priority. And some of those high priority issues consistently were worsening traffic congestion, the rise in serious injuries and fatalities, and limited funding and financing options to advance a lot of the transportation improvement projects and needs that have been identified. And so we've been working with that input. Obviously, a lot of the work that we're engaged with, it varies across the different types of work and activities. And a lot of that work is core requirements that we do on an ongoing basis. We're engaged in outreach and engagement efforts, from maintaining the website to building relationships with a lot of existing groups and networks throughout the region, and then trying to identify other networks to tap into to advance a lot of our work. Research and data analysis, we're constantly updating our data, mapping capabilities, modeling tools, and looking at different data sets to acquire and to increase and enhance our analysis capabilities to better serve a lot of the local efforts that in decision making that you embark on a daily basis. Another would be the policy coordination, from convening the Transportation Policy Board to some of our technical committees or task force and roundtables. And we have some thoughts on some new roundtables and task forces to work with you all on some of these issues that continue to come up and are elevated within our region. And then funding, we have the COVID funding that has come around, but some of the more traditional funding programs that we've set aside funding for, like the Active Transportation Program and the Transit and Technology Program, become opportunities to carry out those call for projects and review processes. Just a summary of some of the planning activities that are currently underway. Some of you are familiar with and have participated in these efforts, from the smart mobility assessment to our downtown interstate loop study to the South Corridor study. And then we have some planned efforts that we've had some initial coordination on through some scoping sessions over the past couple weeks related to a kind of the next round of our freight planning work, regional freight study, which would be kind of a phase 4 that would build on a lot of our existing efforts, as well as a regional traffic impact study to identify some opportunities to help manage some of the rapid growth and development and increase the amount of tools that you have available to have those transportation projects meet the needs in that growth. And so I'll touch on just some of those, to go back just to finish up, and then we have some proposed activities that we haven't started yet, but are based on some of the needs that are occurring within the region. And so the last time some of these documents have been updated, we've identified a regional conservation and preservation strategy to better target some of those areas within the region to conserve and preserve, and then identify some of those strategies to better target the conservation and preservation of those areas, as well as a coordinated human services transportation plan update that I'll dive into on the next slide. And then to better address regional pedestrian safety at the regional level, I think there's a couple of initiatives that we have in mind to better identify some of those strategies that could be implemented across stakeholders within the region. And so as I touched on with the regional freight study and the traffic impact study, we've identified some initial objectives for these efforts, and we had scoping sessions, one on April 29th for the freight study, as well as one on May 5th for the regional traffic impact study. And what we were looking for, we proposed some initial objectives and went over some prior planning efforts on both of these topic areas, and looked for input, discussion and input from folks that attended. We've also provided 2 survey links that are on this slide that you can go to and tell us, additional stakeholders that we should be looking to reach out to, other materials that we should be considering through this process, and any other objectives that you agree with or disagree with, or that you'd like to add to see captured in this effort. And we'll go through both of these efforts will have a scoping committee and go through an RFP process before we identify a consultant and move forward with that work. So some of the additional planning activities, as I mentioned, for the conservation preservation strategy, really kind of identifying what are some of those regional conservation priorities, and some of the tools that we can be utilizing at the state, local, and regional level to implement those. For the coordinated human services transportation plan update, the last update was in 2016, and so it's a good opportunity to reassess some of those existing transportation services, some of the needs and gaps that exist for older adults, persons with disabilities, folks with lower income, and then identify some of those strategies and prioritize some of those needs as we then allocate funding through our enhanced mobility for seniors and individuals with disabilities annual funding program. And then lastly, as I touched on, that for pedestrian safety, looking for kind of elevating and identifying a framework for how to improve safety for active transportation users. We've done a lot of crash data analysis and identifying kind of some of those key next steps to work with you all to identify some locations that we can tackle and some strategies to implement. And so we're looking to continue working through this process. We've outlined, or we've submitted a draft for TDOT's review of a unified planning work program for the next 2 years. They've provided us some comments that we're still working through, but the plan is to have a draft document for your consideration at next month's meeting, and hopefully we can submit it even prior to that so that you can take a look at what's included, a lot of the items that I kind of touched on here, and then we'd have an opportunity to release that for public review and comment before looking for a adoption of that next work program for the next 2 years in August. Is there any questions?
See you, Sean. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll move into our regular reports. Chair recognizes another Sean. Yeah. For our third report with FHWA.
Hey, thank you, Mayor Vogel. Are you able to hear me okay?
I'm sure which one you are.
He's on the stage.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll be glad we can wait for his mask. Okay, hey, Sean.
Hey, can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting year. Go ahead.
I first want to express my appreciation to the GNRC for offering this virtual option. I know it's not ideal, and hopefully FHWA will be able to participate in person in the meeting soon here. Our agency is still working on guidance for releasing some of our travel restrictions and things. So just want to thank you guys for offering this option. Sean Falzer is sharing a slide here on the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity Grant Program, formerly the Build and Tiger Program. FHWA released a notice of funding for this new program back in April. We've got $1 billion available nationwide for capital and planning projects. Up to $25 million are going to be awarded per project. I just wanted to put in this plug for this funding opportunity. You know, the area has good experience with this program. The Build 2018 round, we got the Interstate 65 at Buckner Road interchange awarded through that. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of this opportunity. And then I did just want to briefly mention the U.S. Census Bureau has released their proposed criteria for defining urbanized areas, and they're taking comments on that proposed criteria through the Federal Register. So that comment period closes tomorrow, and just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that those comments are being taken until tomorrow. The census is clear that their urban area designations are not, they're data driven, they're not considering the impacts on other federal programs such as the FHWA program, but we do want to get our voice heard on any concerns that might be out there. So just wanted to, I provided Sean the link to that Federal Register notice, just wanted to make everyone aware of that. And that's all we've got. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Sean? Sean, I don't see any.
All right, I appreciate it.
And thank you. Okay. Moving on to item B, our TDOT report. I'm looking for Matt.
I'm here.
There you go. Thank you.
Good to see you all. I have 2 things I want to talk about. One is our upcoming CMC Grant Program. We are having an application. Here you go. There's the,
Oh.
Sorry.
No, so Zoom can.
Okay. Is there a line on here? Is it just this page?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, sorry about that. So our TDOT CMC Grant Program, we're coming up with our round of 2021 applications. There is a webinar on Friday at 1 o'clock for all the applicants to listen in on and get some input on what we're looking for this year and maybe ask some more detailed questions. So I wanted to alert you of that. The second one that I wanted to report on was our new okay. Okay. Sorry. We have a new interactive project tracking application called ITRIP. It's tracking all active inlet projects that TDOT manages. It includes many different projects, not just the Improve Act projects, but it has resurfacing projects. Anything that falls within our project managing database, the PPRM. If you Google TDOT ITRIP, you should find it as your second link. And if anybody on TDOT staff can put that link into the chat box, that would be great. But again, it allows you to filter by many different categories over here on the left. And it also provides you with the opportunity to filter by representative or senators in their district. So in that initial page, I'll just show you on it. It is TRIP. What I wanted to say was that on that initial page, okay, so I think I guess it is. It takes you to the mapping page, and you have GIS mapping and support. So right here is where it resides. There's documentation here to give you some direction on how to use it if it's not as self-explanatory. We tried to make it as easy as possible to navigate, but there are some limitations that the mapping application does give you. If you do want to take certain projects, we have this attribute tab here that you can use as a way to maybe print out and export the projects that you filtered. So yeah, I don't want to go through the whole thing. I just wanted to make you aware of what is out there and how you could potentially use that to help keep track of some of the TDOT managed projects. So if there are any questions, I can stick around and answer them as best I can.
Any questions for Matt?
So Matt, what?
Yes, sir. I have a question about your application alternatives for a program.
Tap
All provided since September.
for the TAP grants. I do not know that off the top of my head, sir. I can check on that. Mm-hmm. I'll look up the multimodal grants. I'll have to look into that. As far as I know, they are moving forward, but I'll get it. Yeah, I'll look into both of those and I'll get back to you on that.
Mayor Reed?
Matt, on
Yes, ma'am.
that, is it going to tell us where our project actually is in regards to TDOT? So we know, okay, it's in this stage with you all and how much longer it's going to be there to move on to the next stage?
It may not give you that level of detail. Let me see if I can let's see so I just picked this one particular project and this is the detail that it contains. It talks a lot about where it resides, the scope of work. Let's see, based on the PPRM, oops, let me go here. That's where it is. I'll just zoom in on another project here. If it has information on that's in the PPRM system, it will be contained on here. But there are a lot of cases where, unfortunately, the information does not exist in PPRM, so it is not part of the data that is contained in that. But it is, and we're working on that. I know that it's not the best answer, but I'm looking for, here's like current phase date. So there are some that have that information in that depending on the phase. But like I said, it's not 100% consistent and we know that. So we're trying
You
to make
think
that.
y'all will be adding to it?
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, we know that is a problem, but
Hey, Matt, this is Jonathan. If it's in,
Yeah.
if it's in PPRM, as far as a proposed letting date, it will be included. So for example, if you
Right.
click on Main Street in East Nashville and Davidson County, you can scroll down to that project. And it tells you proposed letting date is 4th quarter of 2022.
Yeah, yeah, and I found a project down in Murfreesboro that has that, so we're good.
But the good thing is these projects contain the PIN numbers. So if you didn't have any information, you could always reach out to us, give us the PIN number, and we can tell you exactly where it stands.
Michael,
Okay, two questions. One is related to the universal project that we're profiling. Describe it for us, are the state managed projects?
so if you look at, yeah, this over here in the project type, you'll see it's bridge maintenance, economic development, legislative, local programs, maintenance, resurfacing, safety, state aid bridge, and state aid resurfacing.
Anything that's programmed.
Anything let or active in the system.
Okay, and then is there an opportunity if it doesn't already exist to provide guidance for those interactions with ITRIP, get back to the database?
I think we can. I'll have to go check with IT because that's usually where our biggest firewall is with that information. But I mean, I hope that this is useful in that type of situation.
Matt, can you repeat the question he asked us? Because
Sure.
people on Zoom were having trouble.
So sorry about that. He had asked about the universal projects that are contained in ITRIP. So over on the left-hand side of the application, you'll see where you could filter by program type and get an idea of the type of projects that are listed there. The second question had to do with how you could link ITRIP into your websites and things like that. And we'll have to look into whether that is possible or if it's just a matter of providing you with the link to this. So I'll have to check on that one.
Yeah, we're happy to go together, right?
Sure.
Anyone else got a question for Matt? They were all good questions. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Looks like you're good. Thank you. Okay, it's time for the chair's report. As you all know, well, we met last March in person. Is that right? Has it been that long, Michael? You know, we got to talking about the Amtrak, the proposal of reintroducing intercity rail to Middle Tennessee. And several of you have been interested in taking part and maybe exploring the policy board to have a group look into this with other mayors from the Greater National Regional Council and support the idea. And I've heard that from you, and we got a colleague, the mayor of Lebanon, Mr. Bell. Could you stand up? I don't think the Zoom people is going to get any good at it, but from what I hear, yeah, hey, we appreciate, if you will, to meet with a group. We'll get a group started and try to reach some kind of news about this happening. This excites me. Amtrak really excites me coming through Middle Tennessee. I think it could be a big asset in Middle Tennessee. And I'll try to get back with us at the August board meeting. Yeah. Sean or Mark, anybody want to elaborate on that?
I think just for those interested, can get in touch with me and we can, assemble that group and identify some times that work for everyone.
Yeah. If any of you are interested, get with Sean and Mayor Bell, because I think this is great. I think it could really help out between Chattanooga and stuff like that. As an old railroader myself, Amtrak excites me. It really does. Is that all we got on that, Sean? Okay, we'll move to staff report. I'm going to introduce you again, Sean.
One other thing I wanted to mention, I only have a few items, but we've had a number of scoping sessions that I mentioned for the UPWP. Interested in folks' input in that, and we'll send around the survey links and the other items that you've heard about. But wanted to also mention that we had a pedestrian safety workshop at the end of April that was very well attended. Thank you to FHWA for helping put that on. And during that, I think a number of folks in the room participated, but had an opportunity to review some of the pedestrian safety trends national, statewide, regional level. As I mentioned, one of the kind of priority areas, given that the numbers are not headed in the right direction, and had an opportunity to brainstorm some of those effective strategies for improving pedestrian safety. And I think we'll continue to identify some opportunities and have further discussions with our Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee to identify what are some good next steps to carry out within our region to make progress and reduce some of these fatalities and serious injuries that are happening. And so you have links to the slides, and there's also a recording. It was a 2-day workshop, so I don't know if you have 4 hours to commit, but you can identify which through the slides and the agenda which areas you might want to hear about. The other item that I wanted to mention, this is more just a preview. We've taken a number of resolutions and actions on the safety targets, performance measure targets across a number of categories. One other that we'll be bringing to you all next month, just a preview, is transit operators are also required to develop safety targets across a number of measures. And so we've been working with the transit agencies as they've developed their safety plans, and the MPO will be reviewing and supporting those targets as well. And so I think we'll provide more information next month, but one hopeful thing is that the numbers, as Felix could mention, that the numbers are a lot lower in terms of the number of incidents and crashes that happen related to transit vehicles within the region. So just a preview on that, and we'll bring more information to you next month.
Thank you, Sean. Any other business? Go ahead, Matt.
You want me to come back down?
I think you're gonna have to.
All right. So thank you to my staff for being on the ball. I had Nick's on
Everybody wants to see,
multimodal and tap.
everybody wants to see you, Matt.
Sure. Okay, so just to follow up, and I appreciate staff for filling in. Multimodal access grants announcement should be in 2 weeks, and TAP sometime in June. So that's the news I have. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Okay. Any other business? I just found out that we still don't have enough of quorum, so we'll have to do our minutes at the next meeting, which that'd be great. That'd be all right. I want to say before I get asked for the last motion that I appreciate Mayor Reed sitting here beside me. You know, when you get to be mayor of a county, you're drinking from a fire hose for a while. But now I've got new respect for the chairmen that serve on these boards. Yeah, because there's a lot of people I haven't met all of you yet, and then with the Zoom and everything, it's a big deal. Yeah, I gain respect for the staff for what they do, and we just come in here like I did and sat down and made a motion or something and aggravate Anthony Holt or whatever. But this is a big deal, and I'm glad to serve. And I'm not going to be drinking from a fire hose next month, I promise. Yeah. All right, I'm looking at one more motion. Anthony Holt said motion adjourned. So moved.
Your name tag is on the table, and I'll correct this motion.